Hi, I'm Arbor Shavanis, senior dual degree engineering major here at Morehouse College. This is the More Conversations podcast hosted by the Andrew Young Center for Global Leadership. And today I have the opportunity to speak with Ms. Pamela Winn, a social justice advocate, a policy advocator, and one of the strongest people I ever got to meet. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
Doing all right, doing all right. So I want to ask you, can you give our audience a little bit about your background and, maybe further introduce yourself more?
Sure. So as you stated, I'm Pamela Winn. I am founder of RestoreHER US America. I'm also a co-founder and board president of both the Georgia Coalition of Higher Education in Prison and the National Incarcerated Graduates Network. And I'm also on the advisory council for NORCAT, which is the National Religious Campaign Against Torture. We concentrate on ending solitary confinement. And I got some more hats that I wear. So I do a lot of things. I'm a member of the Council on Criminal Justice. I'm also vice president of the board of the Association of Justice-Involved Women Organizations, among some other things that I do. So I do quite a bit of things, but more importantly, I am an AT alien, Grady baby. I'm all things ATL Atlanta. I'm proud to be from Atlanta. I grew up right here in the AUC on Spelman Lane. At that time, it was called John Hope Homes. For those that don't know, the entire city of Atlanta, it was composed of housing projects, which would lead to why people don't understand how we keep a Black mayor, because we were grounded in Blackness, the inner city of Atlanta. And that's where I'm from. I come from what was considered a typical Southern family, which meant that my family was uneducated and low income. So I am a first generation high school graduate, college graduate, entrepreneur, homeowner, all of the things.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah. So just for our audience, can you give a little bit of context, things that, I guess the average person doesn't know about the incarcerated, the things you're fighting for and the issues you're trying to address?
Sure. So at my organization, RestoreHER, our main advocating is around policy. So for me, I got into this work because of my own personal lived experience of serving a 78-month federal sentence for a white-collar crime that involved my first business that I had, where I made some poor business decisions, again, because I didn't have any experience. Nobody I knew had a business, so I didn't have any guidance, and I was just doing things wrong. In that experience, I found out I was pregnant. And there are a huge number of gender iniquities that women face that are incarcerated. And for me, all of those iniquities on top of the fact that I was pregnant, which caused even more so iniquities that I had to experience. Like, for example, I never received any medical care for my pregnancy. I was being shackled with a double chain around my belly that was connected to wrist cuffs and cuffs on my ankles every time I was taken out to go to court. I didn't get any proper nutritional food for my pregnancy, for my baby, because they're not set up to do those type of things. And eventually that led to me miscarrying my baby. And even in that scenario, it was still a lot of inequity. For example, they had me on a top tier. I was pregnant, and now that I'm miscarrying, they got to figure out how to get me down. They were debating, because they didn't have a plan about what to do with me, because they hadn't experienced or weren't set up to deal with a pregnant woman. So we had officers that felt like they needed to contact the marshals. We had medical staff that felt like they should call 911, and just listening to the both of them debate about what to do with me while I'm in like one of the most traumatic times of my life. And then even when I made it to the hospital, being shackled to the bed by my wrist, by my ankle, and enduring the miscarriage with 2 male officers between my legs that refused to give me any privacy. You know, just the whole situation. My baby being thrown in the trash and then being placed in solitary confinement after I went through all of that. So just that in itself, not even counting just the regular everyday inequities as a woman being incarcerated, like clothing. We have to wear men's clothes because they don't have separate clothing for women. Getting a bra is like treasure, you know, if you get one. Being issued used underwear. You know, just basic things like that that women are going through inside, or even getting menstrual supplies for you know, monthly, and having to ask a man for those things. You know, in some places they even have to show that they are on their cycle to receive anything, or show a stained pad to get a new one. You know, just very dehumanizing, a lot of inequities, and all of this is because the system is, you know, was created for men, is based for men, and it's not adequately set up to, you know, care for women that are detained. And so that led me to coming home and getting into this advocacy work that I'm doing now. And for me, when I came home, trying to figure out the strongest, most fiercest way that I could make an impact to show not only my disdain for what I had went through, but how much it was not right and how much it needed to be changed. For me, I felt like changing the law policy was the most effective way to do that, which is why my work is rooted in policy advocacy.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Because I know, especially for us, we probably never been through anything on the same level as you, but I know it's easy to become bitter or angry or just completely want to distance yourself from what previously transpired. So kudos for that, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I was very angry when I was in there, very angry. And even coming home, still carrying that anger. When you do federal time, although you serve your time, unlike state, you know, prisons or county jails where you can get additional time off or parole, or that doesn't happen in federal prison. You serve your time. And even when you serve your time, you still have to come home on supervised release. Everybody, nobody, you know, so coming home with more limitations, because with my supervised release, I had special conditions that included not being able to use my credit, not getting a loan, and not spending more than $500 at one time. So it made it more challenging for me to, you know, get myself established. So yes, I had a number of days where I was very angry and very frustrated. But, you know, I knew for myself personally, I could not. And that was my thought the whole time, especially when they placed me in solitary confinement after experiencing all that I had. You know, I cannot let these people take me out. You know, I'm bigger than that. And that's always just been my mindset. You know, I'm bigger than that. I'm not going down like that. We're going to figure this out and we're going to handle it. And so whether that been a day at a time, a minute at a, you know, a moment at a time, whatever it took, you know, we're going to figure it out and we're going to make it through it.
So I heard you mention that you've never, you know, when you got out, you hopped right into policy advocacy.
Not right out. So I had 5 years supervised release. So for me, I felt like the first 5 years I was home, I was still incarcerated because I couldn't do anything. But yes, as soon as I got off of probation, I immediately, you know, started my organization. During the time that I was on probation, I was, you know, checking with other organizations and, you know, just kind of learning.
Yeah.
Seeing how they did things and, you know, the proper way to do what I wanted to do and putting it in motion. So when I got off probation, I started a petition on change.org and I got over 100,000 signatures in less than a month, which got the attention of Senator Cory Booker, who reached out to change.org. He left a remark on my petition and went through them to reach me and brought me to DC, to Capitol Hill. And I've been going since then.
Nice, nice, nice. So we've had the opportunity to talk before. And one time I asked you, what was your greatest win? I know you hopped into a field you weren't particularly, educated in, and now you've had the opportunity to get laws passed, and I believe, if I'm looking at the stats correctly, it was like 25 states and things like that.
23 states for the same bill, and then we got a federal bill, and then we got another additional bill that includes everybody here in my home in Georgia, not just women.
Nice.
So yeah, 25 bills. Yeah.
But if you could speak to, during your journey in policy advocacy, your greatest win or a turning point, or, just your most notable moment that you want to share.
So I have two, actually. The first one came when we were advocating for the federal legislation, which is called the First Step Act. And we got a lot of flack for working on the First Step Act. So many different stakeholders, organizations were against the First Step Act, predominantly because it was during the Trump administration and nobody wanted to work, with Trump. And I received a call from, Jessica Jackson and Van Jones, who I started my work with. I met them when Senator Booker brought me to Capitol Hill, and I partnered with them and had been working with them. And they asked me if I wanted to draft, use my language from my policy here in Georgia to put into that federal bill. And I was like, of course. And so when the bill was up for the final vote, Jessica was actually here in town. We were together and we got the call. She got the call about the final vote, and she and Van brought me to DC for that vote. And we were sitting in the gallery, and that was my first time ever being in the gallery, ever observing, a bill being voted on or anything. And it was quite boring. The legislators were debating, giving their debates on why the bill should pass, why the bill should not pass. And so as we're sitting there, we're just having many conversations amongst ourselves because it was boring. And we heard the word shackle, and somebody said, Pam, are they talking about you? And I remember looking down over, I was like, nope, I don't know any of those people down there. But then we kept listening, and then we heard fall, and then they were actually talking about me. So it was Representative Karen Bass. She's now the mayor of Los Angeles, but at that time she was a representative, and she told my story as if she had met me and I had just literally sat there and told her every detail. And I still have not physically met her to this day. We worked together on federal legislation, but I've never physically met her. But she told my story as if she knew me and said that this was the reason that the bill should pass. And then they voted on the bill. And the Speaker of the House, he gave 15 minutes for the bill, for them to vote. And so I'm looking at the clock at the counter, and I'm looking back down at, at the legislators, and I'm looking at Van, and I'm like, we need to get the majority. And he's like, nope, 2/3. And I'm like, whoa, that's, even harder. And so I'm looking at the counter. We had less than a minute left. We were like around 263. And he was like, I think we need 270 or more to win. And then we ran out of time. It was like right at 267 or something like this, 269. And I remember my heart just kind of sinking like, oh, we didn't make it. And I looked at him, and he was like, no, it's not over with yet. I said, but the time is up. He said, that's just to keep everybody on task. He said, just watch the speaker. It's not over until he stands up. And so now I'm feeling like I'm in a tennis match. I'm back and forth, watching the counter, watching him. And it got to 271, and I looked back at him, and he was still sitting down, looked at Van. I'm like, we won? And he was like, yeah, we won. And I was like, can I scream? They gonna lock me up? Because when you go in, they give you all these instructions, know this, know that, this, I was like, they're gonna lock me up. And he was like, he said, you were a team of lawyers, do what you want to do. We got you. So that moment, because in that moment, it took me back to sitting in that cell in solitary, thinking about, I had just lost my baby, and, now I'm in this room, I can't talk to anybody, just feeling like these people trying to take me out, to now I'm sitting here, in the United States House of Representatives, listening to a United States Congresswoman speak about me like what I went through was important. And now seeing all of these legislators vote, to approve a bill to help women not go through what I went through in federal prison, which is, where I was. I didn't never have words, and I still don't have words to explain how I felt in that moment. And then I guess the second largest moment was for me, because my ultimate goal, even is my mission statement, is to end prison birth. And so last year, the new bill that we have, the second bill to the shackling bill, what it does, it defers a woman's sentence, and she doesn't have to serve her time until at least 12 weeks after she has her baby. And one of my colleagues and good friend, Pamela Clifton, that lives in Colorado, had asked me for a copy of the bill and sent me a news press release where she had introduced the bill there. And the bill was up for a final vote. I went up to Colorado, and to be able to talk to the legislators and, explain to them why the bill was so important, and, how it came in, in effect, and all of that was just a great feeling. And the bill passed. And not only did the women get up at least 12 weeks in Colorado, they have a year. They get 12 months before they have to turn themselves in.
Nice.
So in that moment, I felt like redemption, because it's like, the goal, my mission, what I wanted to do, I've hit it, I've accomplished it.
No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So over the years, you had the opportunity to start organization RestoreHER. And of course, you've been also had the opportunity to work with other organizations such as Impact and, this global leadership. And now you're a scholar here at Morehouse. Can you speak to the organization RestoreHER and any other ones you want to mention?
Yeah. So like I said, RestoreHER is the headquarters, the brainchild, where everything comes from. And it's all based on my lived experience and the lived experience of other directly impacted women, is, where we get all of our ideas from. And from that, again, Jessica Jackson and Van Jones, they went from Cut 50, which is the organization when I first came home that I partnered with them on, to start a Reform Alliance with the rapper Meek Mill around his issues with probation. And so we were able to partner with them and pass another bill here at home called SB 105, the Probation Reform Act, which allows Georgians to terminate their probation early within 3 years if they don't have any new revocations, and if they have restitution that is paid. And that's important not only for, the relief of people being under carceral control, because Georgia has more people in carceral control than any place in the world, not just this nation, but the entire world. And so to relieve some of those numbers by allowing people to get off probation was great. But what was even greater for me was the fact that in Georgia, when you're off paper, when you're off probation, your sentence is complete, you get your voting rights back. And that's huge. And, that's a major thing that I've come to realize now, since I do policy work, that I didn't know before I got into this work. And I feel like a lot of people with felony convictions and formerly incarcerated people are not aware of how important voting is. And so that created Impact, which is informing marginalized people's power and cultivating transformation to make folks aware in Georgia, because we are a swing state. Everybody's always looking to see what's going to happen here to determine what's going to happen in the nation. And we turned blue on a federal level with just 12,000 votes. And with this piece of legislation that we passed, at the time that we passed it, we had about 80,000 people with felony convictions that were eligible to vote but not registered. But since the passing of SB 105 and 21, we now have 500,000 folks that have felony convictions here in Georgia that can vote that are not registered. So can you imagine what it would look like here in Georgia if those people registered and actually participated in the process of voting? Yeah, we could change what Georgia looks like. Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, that's exciting to me. And then of course, you know, prior to my incarceration, I was a college graduate. You know, I attended Spelman. I have a degree from Emory, Georgia State University. And so I knew the options that being educated can bring. Like I say, I come from a family that wasn't educated and they were very limited in what they could do. But me getting my education, it opened up so many doors, so many different options. So I know how important it is to be educated, which was my motivation to be a founder of the Georgia Coalition of Higher Education in Prison and the Formerly Incarcerated Graduates Network. Because I feel like, you know, if people that are incarcerated have the opportunity to educate themselves, because you got to think about it, it's the most time they're probably going to spend sitting down and being able to concentrate on something. So they got to come back home. And that's what people don't realize. 90% of the people that are incarcerated are returning back to the community. And how do you want them to return? You don't want them to return doing the same things that took them away from here. And so allowing them to get higher education will make them be able to come home with more options than just whatever they were doing before they left, which is probably why they left, because they didn't have any options. So yeah, that's important work for me as well.
So you mentioned you're a Spelman alum.
Yes.
And then I know you're here as a resident or scholar-in-residence here at Morehouse College. How does it feel just being back in the AUC, being back at Spelman?
It feels great because, you know, I feel like I'm with my family. You know, it feels good. So over at Spelman, I mentor the social justice program. And I do a lot of different things with them. But then to be able to be a scholar-in-residence over here just kind of bridges it all together, you know, the Spell House. So yeah, it's a great feeling. It really makes me feel good to be able to give back, because, you know, this is where I started. I attended Spelman first. So, you know, to have gotten my roots from here and now to be able to come back and be able to pour, you know, what I've learned and what I've experienced and the things I've done back into my sisters and brothers is great. I love it.
So last question for you. For our audience, how can we get involved in the work you do? And, you know, what's next for Pamela Winn?
So what's next? We got a lot of things going on. So right now we have the Women's Care Act in session in Alabama and in California. We just passed the Judiciary Committee hearing in Alabama and up for a House floor vote on the bill there. California, we have a committee hearing coming up on the 23rd. And then we are also hosting a symposium for women who have been criminalized due to DVSA, and that's domestic violence and sexual abuse, for folks that don't know the acronym, and also for women that have been pregnant while they were incarcerated. We're going to be hosting that event in July, where women will be able to share their stories through art and mixed media, to bring more awareness to how women are criminalized for defending themselves in, you know, violent relationships and being abused. And, you know, because to criminalize and incarcerate women under those kind of circumstances really just perpetuates more harm. So we want to bring awareness to that to help get policy in place to alleviate, you know, women being incarcerated under these circumstances. And then, of course, our annual Data is Life research conference is going to be happening in Savannah in September, late September. So we're preparing for that as well. And of course, with Impact, we're out here, we're in the streets, letting folks know that they have the right to vote, trying to get them engaged and involved in this democracy process and understand that their vote counts is very important. I mean, it's extremely important, especially here at home in Georgia. So that's the stuff that we have coming up. And for people that want to get involved, it's just a matter of reaching out to us. So we're on Instagram. On Instagram, we're for Impact, it's at Impact with 2 P's, IMPPACT.US. And then for RestoreHER is at RestoreHER.USA. Also on Twitter or X or whatever it's being called now. Those are the same, our same handles, Impact, but _US and RestoreHER _USA. Same on Facebook as well. Our email address is info@restoreher.us or info@impact with the 2 P's, IMPPACT.US. So just reach out to us and we can let you know what we got going on, following our social media. We place the events that we're hosting and we're doing up, and we'd be happy to have. We need all hands on deck.
No, that's good. I've actually shared a few of the events you guys have coming up, and then I seen there's a photo. You guys have a billboard in front of a prison for Impact. So I've actually shared that around, but looking forward. I know when we share this with the students, we have a ton of students in that field that would love to get involved. So that's what we're hoping to do with this one. Okay. So thank you again for taking out the time to come and conversate with us, share your knowledge, share your wisdom. We really appreciate you here.
I appreciate the invite.
I'm Maurice Chavanis, senior dual degree engineering major here at Morehouse College. This has been the More Conversations podcast hosted by the Andrew Young Center for Global Leadership.